So, is there a backup plan in case Sean Kirkpatrick doesn't deliver the goods in the UFO hearing on Wednesday? This is an amazing suggestion by Joe Murgia in the series of tweets, so let's talk about it. And there's also some other really good stuff from Chris Mellon, where he has a list of suggested questions for Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick on Wednesday. So let's get into it. Get in here. This is Jack with Cosmic Road. I talk about UFOs and the paranormal. Please hit like, please subscribe, share on social media, and of course, comment below and let me know what you think. Okay, I love Joe Murgia. He is always a source of really good information. And I don't really know who Richard Butt is. I've been trying to research Richard Butt. Here his little Twitter thread is right here. But that is who Joe is referencing or retweeting in this post. Some people have suggested that Richard Butt is a pseudonym for Sean Cahill. I don't know. Some people are saying he is a real person unto himself. So, but that is a significant question going through this. So here we go. Whistleblowers, disclosure, and contact. Lots of interesting, important stuff in this tweet. It really is. Let's see. Captain's log, blah, blah, blah. Disclosure. Richard Butt answers Danny's questions, and a few days ago, so did Jay. And now Jay is Jay Stratton, as Danny Sheehan. I'm not sure. How do you expect whistleblowers to succeed if Sean Kirkpatrick, head of Arrow, lays an egg during Wednesday's hearing and then going forward? Will the whistleblowers circumvent him and go directly to Congress? Partially paraphrased, Richard, that has happened. My point is, I have no idea what to expect. This is a pivotal point. They are setting the precedent for going forward. I cannot predict Kirkpatrick's actions, but what I can say, it is in his best interest to be open. If he isn't, it is going to come back to bite him in the ass very soon. There are backup plans to backup plans, and everyone is standing by to see which side he chooses to be on. He has been told everything he needs to be able to answer the questions everyone wants to know. By the end of this year, Richard Butt expects confirmation of non-human intelligence by the government. Not necessarily the president coming out and admitting it, but other parts of the government who were directly involved. Have I, Joe Murgia, heard anything similar? Yes. Last fall, I was told absolute bombshell revelations would or should take place for the general populace as certain people come forward and go public. I don't know if this person was talking about the same thing that Richard is referencing, but they are a top-notch source. They have no date or time limit, so we wait patiently. Let's see. There's some good stuff here. Many of us with good sources are hearing similar things, and it's important to understand not just this timeline, but there are probably some fail-safes and contingencies if certain people try to mess with this timeline. So basically, if Kirkpatrick F's around, obfuscates, and bows down to the gatekeepers, there is a backup plan in place that will ensure that this information gets out. But will it make it to the general public? If my source is talking about the same thing, the answer is yes. But I don't know that for a fact. So be patient and let's see how Wednesday and the rest of the year play out. If nothing happens by Christmas, you have every right to be pissed and stop believing in Santa Claus. And one more thing. Also on April 13th, Gary Nolan had this to say with Matt about our immediate future. Gary Nolan, we are going to be in, let's say, 6 months, end of the summer. I do think that you're going to see some information coming from those on the inside who have decided to step forward, and that will change things. That will change things. What have whistleblowers briefed Congress on behind the scenes in a classified setting? Gary Nolan says crash retrieval and contact. Actual contact. I wonder how deep that goes. Do they actually go into working with the beings? Some of the stuff that I've talked about on the channel before, where there was the whistleblower from Lockheed Martin Skunk Works, who was one of the developers of the SR-71 Blackbird back in the 60s. And he says back then he had fellow engineers at Skunkworks who were working with the beings, and they would tell him about it. And they were developing a training device for how human pilots could learn to fly UFOs, or possibly different, human UFOs, the ARVs. So, I don't know how far, what contact means in this case. It could mean anything. It could just mean, setting down an Air Force base, the saucers. And there's been several incidents of that reported, and, interacting with them in a diplomatic fashion. Or it could simply mean, exchanging signals with the radio or something. But very interesting that Congress is being briefed on contact. That is huge. That is huge. Let's see. Danny Silva says, okay, so that's the Danny. The hearings have been hyped big time, though. Question, since whistleblowers are going through Arrow, and you seem to be down on Kirkpatrick, how do you expect the whistleblowers to succeed? Circumvent him and go directly to Congress? Or will he do good by the whistleblowers? Let's see. Joe says he should have included this one. For me, the two most important takeaways. Let's see what James Fox gives us a tiny peek on what's going behind the scenes in Washington, D.C. This is probably one that I've,
as I just stated,
shared before.
The last 5 weeks, I just got back 10 days ago from Washington, D.C., and I got an insider's perspective on what's happening right now, today, as we speak. And it's quite...
I have shared this clip before, or part of it, but it might be instructive to listen to a few seconds of it again.
Boy, I felt like I just got back from watching a sci-fi thriller or something. Everyone's like, "Oh, how was your trip to D.C.?" It's like, well, do you really want to know?
Yes.
What's happening behind the scenes? Well, and even in front of the scenes is pretty remarkable, right? We've got the new legislation, and I'll get to your question in a minute. We got the new legislation that
I've talked about this before. I did a whole video just on that video, so I'll let you find that. But very interesting stuff. There are backup plans to backup plans in case Sean Kirkpatrick tries to weasel out, or in fact does weasel out. Now, I say weasel because, that is a weasel move, but I do understand that he is probably under serious constraints, whether by the control group or somebody else. The government has been keeping this secret for so long, and the powers that be, whoever that is, are very reluctant to share any information about this. And, I can understand why, because it opens up a whole huge can of worms that gets into alien abductions. They, at some point during this process, they would have to admit that alien abductions are a thing and they can't stop it. And maybe they have even helped the beings doing this. In fact, that's what it looks like. And, it also gets into the metaphysical stuff. So I can understand their reluctance to do this. However, this is a, fundamental part of the reality that we live in, and the metaphysics are big, right? If this gets into the spiritual stuff, and it does, then again, that's a fundamental part of our reality and who we are as individuals. If we are immortal beings and there is a grand cosmic plan in place, and some of these UFO events are part of that, or at least, cosmic actors say, I don't want to say cosmic plan as if it's divine will exactly, but there is a bigger picture that seems to be happening. So but so I can understand their reluctance to get into all of that, but they need to, because again, it is fundamental, and they are denying us our connection to the bigger picture and even who we are as human beings, and that's just wrong, and it needs to come out. I can understand them doing it in drips and drabs. slowly unrolling this so as to alleviate the chaos that could come if you rip the Band-Aid off too soon. I think the 7-year plan, for example, if that is a real thing, would be probably a good idea and a good general timeline. Yeah, it took me several years to acclimate myself and to, dive into one rabbit hole after another at my leisure and do all the research and investigation necessary to satisfy myself that each point was legitimate and genuine. It took me a long time to get to the point where I believed that UFOs were non-human vehicles. And it took me an even longer time to get to the point where I believed that alien abductions were a thing, and so on and so on and so on. And then you get to the metaphysical stuff, and it just, it's crazy. It's mind-blowing. And, it is a process that, might be better, the public might be better served by doing that a little slowly, letting them digest each piece for a few months or a year or so, and then deliver the next piece. So anyway, let's move on to what Chris Mellon has to say. He has some questions that he thinks should be asked of Sean Kirkpatrick. How many U.A.P have been reported to Arrow based principally or solely on their direction by the SSPAR radar network? I don't know what that is. If you do, let me know in the comments below. How many cases did these detections lead to the launch of U.S. or Canadian fighter aircraft? Great question. I've talked about several incidents that are interceptions of UFOs by military aircraft. There have been shots fired. There seems to have actually been UFOs that have been brought down by U.S. fighter planes and other weapons, energy weapons, etc. As unlikely as that sounds, there are quite a few reports of that. Is Arrow privy to reporting from Canadian NORAD military components? If so, how many such reports have been received? If not, why not? There seems to be some confusion about the outstanding number of currently unresolved U.A.P. reports. What is the current total number? Yeah, well, I think that we can't trust any numbers that Sean Kirkpatrick gives us, sadly, because he lied so badly on the U.A.P. report, fudging the numbers to make it look like there were more explained cases than unexplained cases, as reported by George Knapp. That's the problem with Kirkpatrick. Even if he answers us, he has been known to lie very deliberately, even going through some trouble to lie, to gather false evidence to present to people. So, he's not just lying off the cuff. He actually put some work into it. He is a disinformation agent, sadly. So, can he turn a new leaf? Well, it looks like at least we have Congress on our side now that are genuinely interested in this and is trying to make some headway. Did the SSPR radar at Beale Air Force Base detect any of the U.A.P. observed by U.S. Navy radar operators aboard the USS Princeton? Okay, good question. As noted above, since 2019, there have been a series of incidents involving close-range surveillance of U.S. Navy warships operating off the coast of Southern California. These incidents have occurred almost directly in front of the powerful radar at Beale Air Force Base. Again, did the Beale radar detect any of these unidentified objects? Okay. Number 7, U.S. Navy aviators began seeing bizarre U.A.P. violating restricted DoD airspace off the east coast of the U.S. beginning in 2015. Some pilots, such as former F-18 aviator Lieutenant Ryan Graves, reported encountering these objects almost every time they conducted training exercises in that area. Did the SSPA, the radar at Cape Cod detect any of these craft? If not, what needs to be done to enhance the effectiveness of these radars? Yeah, we need to know what these radars are doing. I don't know how much they're going to be able to share that. It's probably, sensitive data. But yeah, what is radar capable of? What are satellites capable of? How much of the UFO activity are they able to pick up? And as we've seen with the Chinese balloons, do they need to tweak the instruments, what they are picking up, so that they can pick these things up? Because apparently they weren't picking up the balloons or identifying them or whatever. Let's see. America's radar network operates without interruption and covers immense regions, including some regions of near-Earth space. Inevitably, these systems detect anomalous objects. Records obtained through the Freedom of Information Act and testimony of retired military personnel indicate that, on occasion, objects demonstrating extreme, even unprecedented capabilities have been detected. What access has Dr. Kirkpatrick had to NORAD data about anomalous objects detected by U.S. air and space defense? Is he satisfied that he has been granted access to all pertinent information? And, I hope he is granted access, because, of course, he should be granted access. But will he share any of this is the question. Since the first famous, this is the last one, since the first American sighting of U.A.P. by Kenneth Arnold in the 1940s, tens of thousands of witnesses have reported U.A.P. appearing to move silently at supersonic speeds. Such reporting is commonplace. These vehicles are also generally these vehicles also generally do not appear to issue exhaust or have air intakes. Further, there is typically no evidence of plasma from the intense temperatures generated by the friction we would normally expect to observe at such extreme speeds, i.e., as observed when rockets return from space at extreme velocities. In other words, many U.A.P. do not appear to be powered by combustion engines, and the technology they are using seems to negate sonic booms and friction. What unique signatures might allow us to detect and track craft employing such radical technology? Anyway, so there you go. Some great questions from Chris Mellon for Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick. Of course, there's many, many others that we could ask, and there's some another whole article here. Some questions to be asked. From the Hill. And anyway, so. Very exciting times. It looks like Congress is really and truly invested in the subject and wanting answers. And there are backup plans within backup plans in case Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick doesn't pony up with some relevant information. So we can only cross our fingers and hope that he does deliver something promising on Wednesday. What do you think, guys? What are the chances that he is going to give us something interesting and honest? I'm not expecting the full can of worms, but I'll take a worm or two. I will take a worm or two, an honest worm or two, not a doctored or colored or manipulated worm. I want to slowly begin seeing the real picture of what is going on. And the U.S. government either knows it or knows a big chunk of it. Maybe colored through the lens of whatever being or beings they are working with. Whatever race or races of beings they are working with. And that is also a factor when information does begin coming out about the bigger cosmic picture. We should keep in mind that we need to first know where this information is coming from, what races or what beings are providing us this information. So just something to keep in mind for the far future when we eventually get some more sophisticated form of disclosure. So let me know your thoughts, guys. What are we going to get on Wednesday? It looks like, if nothing else, there is pressure on Sean Kirkpatrick, and he is probably aware of some of these backup plans if they exist. And so he may feel obligated to actually deliver something. Not very much, but he may feel obligated to deliver something that is real and honest and actually moves the conversation forward. So that's all we can hope for. That's all I'm hoping for. And, I'm not that hopeful, but we'll see. We'll see, guys. Let me know your thoughts. If you've enjoyed this video, please give me a big thumbs up. I'd appreciate it. Smash the subscribe button in the bell to be notified of future videos. If you don't want to miss a thing, join me on social media. There's Facebook and Twitter links below. I would love to see you guys there. And check out some of my other videos. Until next time, this is Jack with Cosmic Road signing out.